The desperate signal, the merchant vessel. Gentle Horizon shuddered violently as another system failed. Captain Velis gripped the edge of his navigation console, his gray skin darkening with stress. Around him, the bridge crew worked frantically at their stations, their movements growing more desperate with each passing moment. "Engine core temperature critical," announced Thora, the ship's chief engineer. Her crystalline body flickered with amber light, a clear sign of distress among her silicon-based species. "We have maybe 20 minutes before complete shutdown." Velis felt his twin hearts hammering in his chest. 20 minutes. After that, they would drift helplessly through the void, slowly suffocating as their life support systems died one by one. He looked around at his crew of 32 souls, all depending on him to make the right decision. "What happened?" he demanded, though he already suspected the answer. "The fuel injectors we purchased at Station Kelvor were faulty," Thora replied bitterly. "They overheated and caused a cascade failure throughout the propulsion system. I tried emergency shutdowns, but the damage spread too fast." Of course, they had taken the cheap option, trying to save credits on their tight merchant budget. Now that decision might cost them everything. Velis cursed himself for the 100th time. 5 years running cargo routes without incident had made him careless. "Life support status?" he asked his second officer. Kren, a mammalian species with soft blue fur, checked his readings. His long ears drooped with worry. Oxygen recyclers functioning at 60% capacity. Carbon dioxide scrubbers failing. If we lose main power, we have approximately 14 hours of breathable air. Less if we panic and consume it faster. 14 hours, Velis calculated quickly in his mind. They were in a remote sector, traveling between established trade routes to save time. The nearest Galactic Union station was 3 days away at maximum emergency speed for a rescue vessel. Even if someone received their distress signal immediately, they would never arrive in time. Communications? Velis turned to his communications officer. Prill, a young avian whose green feathers were ruffled with fear, pecked at her console. "Long-range array is functional. I can broadcast on all emergency frequencies. But Captain, we're so far from established routes. Who will hear us?" "Someone has to," Velis said firmly, though doubt gnawed at him. "Send the distress signal. Maximum power. Include our position, situation, and crew manifest. Make it clear we need immediate assistance." Prill's talons moved across her controls. Within moments, their desperate plea pulsed outward into the darkness of space, a simple message that crossed languages and species. "Help us. We are dying. Please respond." The crew fell into tense silence. Minutes crawled past like hours. The ship's emergency lighting cast everything in dim red, making the bridge feel like the inside of a dying star. Velis listened to the sounds of his ship groaning around him, systems failing one by one. Environmental controls flickered. Gravity plates stuttered. The gentle hum that always filled a functioning starship grew irregular, labored like the breathing of someone near death. "Captain," Kren said softly, "perhaps we should prepare the crew. Tell them to make peace." Velis opened his mouth to respond, but Prill suddenly shrieked. "Sensors detecting vessels approaching. 3 contacts coming fast." Hope exploded through the bridge. Velis felt his body flood with relief. "Union ships? Can you identify them?" Prill worked her console frantically. Her feathers stood straight up, and Velis realized with growing confusion that this was not excitement. This was terror. "Captain, the computer is identifying the vessels as human warships. Military class. They will reach us in 15 minutes. The bridge went completely silent. Even the sound of failing systems seemed to fade away. Velis felt his blood turn to ice in his veins. Every crew member stared at him with wide, horrified eyes. "Humans," Thora whispered, her crystalline body flashing from amber to dark red. "The Deathworlders." Velis had heard the stories. Every species in the Galactic Union had heard the stories. Humans came from a planet called Earth, a Class 12 death world where everything tried to kill everything else. They evolved as apex predators in an environment so hostile that it defied imagination. Crushing gravity, violent weather, diseases, predators, natural disasters. Their world hammered them into something terrifying. The Galactic Union had discovered humanity 40 years ago. The humans had applied for membership 17 times. 17 times they were rejected. Too aggressive, too violent, too unpredictable, too dangerous. The Union allowed limited trade but banned direct military cooperation. Humans were quarantined to their own sector of space, interacting with other species only under strict protocols. And now 3 human warships were coming straight toward them. "What do we do?" Kren asked, his voice trembling. "Captain, what do we do?" Velas tried to think clearly through his panic. Every story he had ever heard about humans rushed through his mind. They were incredibly strong, surviving gravity that would crush most species. They were incredibly fast, with reflexes honed by evolution on a world where slowness meant death. They were incredibly aggressive, solving problems with violence when other species sought peaceful solutions. Worst of all, they were predators. They had forward-facing eyes for tracking prey. They had teeth designed for tearing meat. They consumed other living creatures for sustenance. The very thought made Velas's stomach turn. Most civilized species were herbivores or filter feeders. The idea of eating another living being was barbaric, monstrous. "They answered our distress signal," Prill said quietly. "They must have heard us calling for help." "Or they heard easy prey," Thora countered darkly. "Pirates answer distress signals too. Maybe humans are no different." "We don't know that," Kren protested, though his voice shook. "The Union has trade agreements with them. They must follow some rules." "The Union doesn't trust them enough for membership," Thora shot back. "There must be good reasons." Velas forced himself to focus. He was captain. These people depended on him. "Give me facts, not fears. What do we actually know about humans?" Kren accessed his database. "They have been spacefaring for approximately 80 years. They expanded aggressively, establishing colonies on multiple worlds. They have advanced military technology, though they claim it is purely defensive. They have engaged in several conflicts with pirate groups and hostile species, always emerging victorious. No recorded instances of them attacking Union vessels. No recorded instances we know about," Thora added grimly. "Maybe they leave no survivors to report." "That's speculation," Kren argued. "Based on logical caution," Thora insisted. "They are predators from a death world. Everything about them screams danger." The console beeped. "Incoming transmission," Prill announced. "Audio and visual." "They are hailing us." Every eye turned to Velas. He felt the weight of 32 lives pressing down on him. "Accept the transmission and face the monsters, or ignore it and die slowly in the dark. Some choice, put it through," he said quietly. The main view screen flickered to life. A human face appeared, and despite everything he had heard, Velas was not prepared for what he saw. The human was female, with dark brown skin and short black hair. She wore a dark uniform with rank insignia he did not recognize, but what struck him most were her eyes. Forward-facing, yes, as predators had, but they were not cruel or cold. They looked alert, intelligent, concerned. "Merchant vessel Gentle Horizon, this is Commander Sarah Mitchell of the Terran Defense Fleet ship Valiant," she said. Her voice was calm, professional, speaking perfect Union standard language. "We received your distress signal." "What is your current situation?" She sounded so normal, so reasonable. Velas found his voice after a moment. "This is Captain Velas of Gentle Horizon. We suffered catastrophic engine failure. Life support systems failing. We have 14 hours of breathable air remaining." "Understood," Mitchell replied immediately. "We have engineering teams ready to assist. We also carry medical supplies and can provide temporary life support if needed. Request permission to approach and render aid." So polite. So professional. Exactly what someone would say if they genuinely wanted to help, or exactly what a predator would say to get close to prey. Velas glanced at his crew. They stared back at him with expressions ranging from hope to absolute terror. "Commander Mitchell," Velas said carefully, "we appreciate your offer. However, our species have limited interaction. We need to discuss internally before making a decision." A pause. Mitchell tilted her head slightly. "I understand your hesitation, Captain. Take the time you need. But I want you to know that we're here to help, nothing more. Your crew's safety is our only concern." "Thank you, Commander. Please stand by." The transmission ended. Velas looked at his bridge crew. "Opinions?" "We're going to die if we refuse," Kren said bluntly. "The question is whether we die from system failure or from accepting human help." "Maybe they really do want to help," Prill suggested hopefully. She seemed sincere. "Predators are patient," Thora countered. "They know how to gain trust before striking. It's how they hunt." "We don't have time for philosophy," Velas snapped. "I need a decision. Vote now. Accept human assistance or decline and hope for another rescue ship that won't arrive in time." The vote took 10 minutes. 20 crew members voted to accept help. 12 voted to refuse. Democracy and desperation, Velis thought bitterly. He opened the channel again. Commander Mitchell, this is Captain Velis. We accept your assistance, but we have conditions. We request that human personnel remain minimal and that all interactions be supervised. We mean no offense, but our species are unfamiliar with each other. Another pause. When Mitchell responded, she actually smiled. Not a threatening display of teeth, but a genuine smile that somehow made her look less dangerous and more human. Captain, no offense taken. We'll respect your boundaries completely. I'm dispatching an engineering team of 4 personnel. They'll assess your damage and make recommendations. You maintain full control of your ship at all times. Does that work? 4 humans. 4 predators from a Deathworld coming aboard his ship. Velis felt his hands trembling. That is acceptable, Commander. Thank you. Our pleasure, Captain. That's what neighbors do. Valiant out, the transmission ended. Velis sat back in his command chair, wondering if he had just saved his crew or doomed them to something worse than suffocation. They'll be here in 10 minutes, Prill announced quietly. 10 minutes until they discovered if humans were the monsters everyone feared or something entirely different. 10 minutes that would change everything. Velis closed his eyes and prayed to his ancestors for wisdom. Whatever happened next, there would be no turning back. When monsters prove merciful, the airlock alarm chimed through the gentle horizon, announcing the arrival of their unexpected rescuers. Captain Velis stood in the docking bay with Kren and Thora, watching the external pressure gauge equalize. His twin hearts pounded so hard he thought they might burst from his chest. Remember, he said quietly to his companions. Stay calm. Show no aggression. Predators respond to fear and sudden movements. Easy for you to say, Thora muttered, her crystalline body flickering nervous orange. You're not made of silicon they could shatter. The airlock cycled open with a hiss of pressurized air. 4 figures stepped through, and despite all his mental preparation, Velis felt his breath catch in his throat. The humans were massive. Even the smallest stood at least a head taller than him, and Velis was considered tall among his species. They wore dark gray work suits covered in pockets and equipment, their builds powerful and intimidating beneath the fabric. But what struck Velis most was how they moved. Smooth, controlled, deliberate, like coiled springs ready to explode into action at any moment. Every gesture radiated strength and capability. These were beings built by a harsh world to survive anything. The lead human removed his helmet, revealing a male face with pale skin and short brown hair. He smiled, showing those predator teeth, and Velis forced himself not to step back. Captain Velis? I'm Lieutenant Marcus Webb, Chief Engineer from the Valiant. This is my team. Specialists Rodriguez, Okonkwo, and Park. The other 3 removed their helmets. 2 males and 1 female, various skin tones, all watching the aliens with expressions that seemed more curious than threatening. Webb gestured to the equipment they carried. We've got diagnostic tools, replacement parts, and portable life support if needed. With your permission, we'd like to start with a full assessment of your engine systems. His voice was steady, professional, almost gentle, nothing like the aggressive growl Velis had imagined. Of course, Velis managed. Thora is our chief engineer. She will show you the damage. Thora's body flashed bright red with fear, but she stepped forward bravely. This way, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The humans followed her toward engineering, and Velis noticed how they walked. Careful, controlled steps, they kept their hands visible, moved slowly through doorways, made themselves as non-threatening as possible. Webb even had to duck under several overhead conduits built for smaller species. Yet he did so without complaint. In engineering, the damage was obvious. Burned panels, melted conduits, the acrid smell of overheated components. Thora explained what had happened, her words tumbling out faster as nervousness made her ramble. The humans listened patiently, asking questions that showed deep technical knowledge. These fuel injectors are definitely faulty, Rodriguez said, examining a charred component. She was a shorter human with dark hair pulled back tight. Substandard materials, poor manufacturing. Where did you purchase these? Station Calvor, Thora admitted. We were trying to save credits. False economy, Okonkwo commented. He was the largest of the humans, with very dark skin and a deep voice that rumbled like distant thunder. Cheap parts cost more in the long run. Sometimes they cost lives. Can you repair it? Velis asked from the doorway, watching carefully. Webb straightened up, his tall frame nearly touching the ceiling. Repair? No, Captain. These systems are too far gone, but we can replace them. We carry standard emergency components compatible with most Union vessel designs. We can have you operational in about 6 hours. 6 hours? Thora's body flashed bright blue with surprise. That's impossible. This kind of damage would take days to fix properly. Park, the quiet female with Asian features, smiled slightly. We're pretty good at impossible. It's kind of our specialty. The humans worked with startling efficiency. They moved in perfect coordination, each knowing exactly what the others needed before words were spoken. Webb called out specifications while Rodriguez retrieved parts. Okonkwo handled the heavy components that should have required mechanical assistance, lifting them with his bare hands. Park ran diagnostics on systems Velis didn't even know could be diagnosed. But what amazed Velis most was their gentleness. When Thora showed them the delicate crystal matrix that regulated power flow, Webb handled it with the care of someone holding a newborn. When they needed to move equipment through cramped spaces, they worked slowly and precisely to avoid damage. When Kren brought them water, they thanked him politely and asked about his family. They were nothing like the monsters from the stories. 2 hours into repairs, alarms suddenly blared through the ship. Velis rushed to the nearest comm panel. "Bridge report!" Prill's voice crackled with panic. "Captain, sensors detect 4 vessels approaching fast. Reading them as Kraven marauders. Pirate ships." Velis felt his blood turn cold again. Pirates. Of course, pirates would notice a distressed merchant ship. They were predators of a different kind, cruel and merciless. The Kraven species were carnivorous raiders who attacked weak targets and stripped them of everything valuable, including crew members they sold into slavery. "How long until they reach us?" Velis demanded. 18 minutes at current speed. Webb appeared at Velis's elbow, making him jump. The human moved so quietly. "Captain, we need to inform Commander Mitchell immediately." They rushed to the bridge. Webb activated his risk communicator. "Lieutenant Webb to Valiant. We have incoming hostiles. 4 Kraven Marauder vessels, ETA 17 minutes. Mitchell's voice came through clear and calm. "Acknowledged, Lieutenant. We're tracking them. Valiant, Defender, and Guardian are moving to intercept. Continue your repairs. We'll handle the Kravens." "Negative, Commander," Webb said firmly. "My team should return to the ship. We can fight. Your mission is to save that merchant crew, Lieutenant. Stay focused on repairs. We've got this." Webb looked like he wanted to argue, but he nodded. "Understood. Webb out." He turned to Velis. "My team will work faster. We'll get you operational before the pirates arrive." 3 human ships against 4 Kraven marauders? Thora said incredulously. "The Kravens are heavily armed. This is suicide." "Respectfully, ma'am," Webb replied with a slight smile. "You don't know humans very well yet." They rushed back to engineering. The human team moved even faster now, their hands blurring with speed and precision. Velis watched them work while monitoring the tactical situation on a portable display. The 3 human warships had positioned themselves between the gentle horizon and the approaching pirates. The Kraven vessels were large, aggressive-looking craft, bristling with weapons. They moved in a loose formation, clearly confident. Through the comm system, Velis heard the Kraven commander's harsh voice demanding immediate surrender. Then he heard Commander Mitchell respond, her voice still calm but now edged with cold steel. "Kraven vessels, this is the Terran Defense Fleet. The merchant ship is under our protection. Turn back now or face the consequences." The Kraven commander laughed. 3 human ships? "We are 4. Your species is weak. Your technology is primitive. Surrender or be destroyed." "Last warning," Mitchell said simply. "Leave now. Make us Deathworlders." What happened next would be burned into Velis's memory forever. The human ships moved with breathtaking speed and precision. They didn't charge forward like aggressive warriors. They flowed like water, like predators circling prey, each movement calculated and deadly. The Kravens fired first, their weapons lighting up space with energy bolts and missiles. But the human ships weren't where the shots went. They danced between the attacks, their pilots performing maneuvers that should have been impossible. The G-forces alone should have killed anyone inside. Then the humans returned fire. Their weapons were different from Union technology. Kinetic accelerators that fired solid metal at incredible speeds. Precision energy beams that cut through shields like they weren't there. Missiles that moved with frightening intelligence, anticipating every evasive maneuver. Within 3 minutes, 2 Kraven ships were disabled, drifting helplessly. A third exploded when its own weapons detonated from damage. The fourth tried to flee, but a human missile took out its engines. Craven vessels power down and prepare to be boarded, Mitchell announced. You are under arrest for piracy and attempted murder. Comply immediately. The defeated pirates complied. They had no other choice. In engineering, the human team had stopped working to watch the battle on Velas's display. When it ended, Rodriguez whistled softly. Commander Mitchell doesn't mess around. Your people fight like demons, Thora whispered, her body flashing colors Velas had never seen before. We fight to protect, Webb corrected gently. There's a difference. Now let's get your ship working so you don't need protection anymore. They returned to repairs with renewed energy, true to Webb's word. 6 hours after arriving, the Gentle Horizon's engines hummed back to life. Life support systems stabilized. Power flowed cleanly through repaired conduits. The ship lived again. Velas couldn't believe it. It's perfect. Better than before. We replaced everything with quality components, Park explained. No more cheap fuel injectors. These will last years. How much do we owe you? Velas asked, dreading the answer. Human assistance had saved them, but the cost would probably bankrupt him. Webb looked confused. Owe us nothing, Captain. This is standard rescue protocol. You were in distress. We helped. That's what spacefaring people do for each other. But the parts alone are covered by our emergency response budget. Webb interrupted firmly. Captain, you don't owe us anything except maybe to help the next ship you find in trouble. Pass it forward. Velas felt something crack inside him. All the fear, all the terrible stories, all the warnings about dangerous Deathworlders. And here stood 4 humans who had risked themselves to save strangers, asking nothing in return. He felt shame wash over him, forever believing the lies. Suddenly, alarms blared again. Not attack warnings this time. Medical emergency. Bridge to Captain! Prill screamed. It's Lixta. She's not breathing. Velas's heart stopped. Lixta was their youngest crew member, barely an adult. She had been working in a sealed cargo bay during the crisis. Medical team to Cargo Bay 3, he shouted. Webb was already moving. Where's your medical bay? This way. Velas ran, the human following close behind. They reached Cargo Bay 3 to find Lixta collapsed on the deck, her small mammalian body still. The bay's environmental seals had failed. She had been breathing contaminated air for who knew how long. Their ship's medic, an elderly Prelian named Dox, knelt beside her, his multiple hands moving frantically. Carbon dioxide poisoning? Her respiratory system is shutting down. I don't have the equipment to treat this. I do, Webb said, dropping to his knees beside Lixta. He pulled a compact medical kit from his suit and worked with swift confidence. An oxygen mask over her face, an injection into her bloodstream. His large hands moved with impossible gentleness as he monitored her vital signs on a handheld scanner. Come on, Webb muttered. Breathe. Come on, kid, breathe. Velas watched this human, this supposed monster, fighting desperately to save an alien child. Webb's face showed intense concentration, absolute determination. He adjusted the oxygen flow, administered another injection, performed careful chest compressions adapted for her smaller frame. Breathe, Webb commanded, and Lixta gasped. Her eyes flew open. She coughed, sucked in air, coughed again. Webb held her carefully as her body fought to recover. Easy, easy, you're okay. Just breathe slowly. That's it. You're doing great. Lixta's eyes focused on the human holding her. For a moment she looked terrified. Then Webb smiled at her, warm and reassuring. Hey there. You gave us quite a scare. But you're tough. You're going to be fine. She started crying, but not from fear. From relief, from overwhelming emotion. And this human, this Deathworlder, this predator from a planet of nightmares, held her gently and told her everything would be okay. Doc stared in shock. You saved her. I couldn't, but you did. Deathworld medicine, Webb said simply, still monitoring Lixta's recovery. We have to deal with extreme injuries on Earth. Makes us pretty good at emergency response. An hour later, the human team prepared to return to the Valiant. The Gentle Horizon was fully operational, better than it had been in years. Lixta was resting comfortably in medical bay, her prognosis excellent. The captured pirates were in human custody, ready for transfer to Union authorities. Velas stood at the airlock with his senior crew, facing the 4 humans who had changed everything. I don't know what to say, he began. We feared you. We believed terrible things about your people. We were wrong. Completely wrong, Webb shook his head. You weren't wrong to be cautious, Captain. First contact is always uncertain, but I hope today showed you something true about humanity. We're not monsters. We're just people trying to do right by others. You saved us, Thora said, her crystalline body glowing pure white, the color of gratitude among her species. You asked for nothing. You risked yourselves. You treated us with kindness. I will tell everyone what humans truly are. As will I, Kren added. The Galactic Union needs to know the truth. Rodriguez smiled. Maybe someday they'll let us join. 18th time's the charm, right? I will personally petition the Council, Velis promised. If they knew what I know now, humanity would be welcomed immediately. You are exactly the kind of species the Union needs. The humans put their helmets back on, preparing to cycle the airlock. Webb turned back one last time. Captain, one more thing. Those fuel injectors from Kelvor? Report them to Union safety inspectors. Someone's selling dangerous equipment. Don't let another ship suffer what you did. I will. Thank you, Lieutenant Webb. Thank you all. The humans departed. Velis watched through the viewport as they returned to the Valiant, that massive warship that had seemed so threatening just hours ago. Now it looked like exactly what it was. A protector, a guardian, a friend in the darkness. Commander Mitchell's voice came over the comm. Gentle Horizon, this is Valiant. We'll escort you to the nearest Union station. Should reach it in about 8 hours. Rest easy, Captain. You're safe now. Thank you, Commander, for everything. Our pleasure. That's what neighbors do. Valiant out. Velis returned to the bridge. His crew looked at him with expressions mixing exhaustion, relief, and wonder. They had faced death. They had encountered their greatest fears, and they had discovered that sometimes the monsters turned out to be heroes. Course set for Union Station Keltor, Prill announced, her green feathers finally smoothing down after hours of stress. Eat to 8 hours. We're going home, Captain. Thanks to the humans, Kren added quietly. Thanks to the humans, Velis agreed. He settled into his command chair, watching the 3 Terran warships maintaining protective formation around his small merchant vessel. Ships full of people from a death world who had every reason to be cruel but chose kindness instead. The galaxy had gotten humans wrong. Completely wrong. They weren't monsters to be feared and isolated. They were exactly the allies everyone needed but were too afraid to accept. Velis made himself a promise right then. He would spend the rest of his life telling the truth about humanity. He would petition, argue, testify, and fight until the Galactic Union recognized its mistake. Humans deserved membership. They deserved respect. They deserved to be welcomed as the remarkable people they truly were. And Velis would make sure that happened, no matter how long it took. The Gentle Horizon sailed through space escorted by friends who had once been feared. Behind them drifted 4 pirate ships captured not by monsters but by heroes. And somewhere ahead the Galactic Union continued in ignorance, not yet knowing that everything they believed about humanity was wrong. But they would learn. Velis would make certain of that. The Deathworlders had saved his life. Now he would save their reputation. It was the least he could do for the people who proved that strength and compassion could exist in the same being. The journey home had never felt safer,